In the quiet expanse of the cosmos, there is a boundary we cannot cross. We call it the observable universe. It is a vast glowing sphere, extending tens of billions of light years in every direction, filled with hundreds of billions of galaxies, each holding trillions of stars. To our human minds, this scale is already indistinguishable from eternity. It is a space so grand that it makes our entire history feel like a fleeting whisper in a silent room. Yet, modern physics suggests that this immense arena, everything we can see, touch, and measure, is not the entirety of reality. It is merely a single drop in an ocean so vast that its true dimensions defy comprehension. Beyond the edge of our cosmic horizon, light from distant regions has simply not had enough time to reach us since the beginning of time. But space does not end where our vision fails. The laws of nature, as we understand them, point toward a reality that is far more overwhelming, a reality where space does not just continue, but extends forever. It is within this concept of absolute infinity that a strange, unsettling truth begins to emerge. If you travel far enough into the darkness, past the boundaries of our cosmic neighborhood, past uncounted billions of galaxies, you will eventually find something familiar. In a truly infinite universe, the laws of probability dictate a terrifying certainty. Somewhere out there, hidden across distances that cannot be measured in human words, there is another galaxy exactly like the Milky Way. Inside that galaxy, there is another solar system, another Earth, and another room. And inside that room, someone identical to you is sitting, experiencing this exact moment, thinking the exact same thoughts. This is not science fiction, nor is it a mere poetic metaphor. It is the literal consequence of an infinite cosmos. The possibility of infinite versions of yourself, living out lives that mirror your own, or diverging in ways you can barely imagine. To understand how this is possible, we must first confront the nature of the vacuum and the way matter behaves at its most fundamental level. When we look at the world around us, we see infinite variety. We see unique faces, distinct landscapes, and unpredictable moments. But this variety is an illusion born from our limited perspective. In truth, everything you see, everything you have ever touched, and everything you will ever lose is composed of the exact same building blocks: atoms, electrons, protons, and neutrons. These particles are not unique. A carbon atom in your hand is identical to a carbon atom in the heart of a distant star. They are cosmic Lego bricks, anonymous and interchangeable. Now, imagine a specific volume of space, a small patch of reality, like the room you are currently occupying. Within this specific volume, there is only a finite number of ways that these fundamental particles can be arranged. This is because particles cannot exist in just any state. Quantum mechanics dictates that they must occupy discrete energy levels and positions. There are only so many seats in the theater of reality. Even though the number of possible configurations for a human body or an entire planet is unimaginably large, it is still a finite number. It is a number with an immense sequence of zeros, but it has an end. It is a closed book. This is where the terrifying logic of infinity alters everything we know about existence. If you have a finite number of ways to arrange particles, but you have an infinite amount of space to place them in, repetition becomes inevitable. Think of reality as a giant deck of cards. You can shuffle this deck into an astronomical number of different combinations. If you shuffle it 1,000 times, every single result will likely be completely unique. But if you are forced to shuffle that deck an infinite number of times, a change occurs. Not only will you eventually repeat a combination you have seen before, but you'll repeat every single possible combination an infinite number of times. The universe is shuffling its deck across an endless canvas. Because space is infinite, the cosmic deck has been shuffled so many times that your specific sequence, the exact arrangement of matter that defines your body, your brain, your memories, and your current surroundings, must appear again. It must appear a few light years away, a few billion light years away, and an infinite number of times beyond that. Somewhere in the deep dark of the cosmos, there is a cosmic mirror. If you were to embark on a journey through this infinite expanse, traveling in a straight line through the silence of space, you would pass through vast stretches of void and alien worlds. For trillions of light years, you would encounter nothing but chaos, strange stars, and unfamiliar patterns of matter. But as the distance grew larger, the mathematical certainty of repetition would begin to take hold. First, you would encounter patches of space that look vaguely familiar, galaxies that resemble our own but with slight variations in their structure. As you traveled even further, the resemblance would become sharper. You would eventually find a solar system with 8 planets, a blue world spinning around a yellow star. If you descended to that world, you would find cities, streets, and houses. You would walk into a house that matches yours perfectly, and there you would see yourself. This distant double would possess the exact same scars, the same memories of childhood, the same fears, and the same hopes. They would be wearing the same clothes, reading the same text, and feeling the exact same sense of quiet wonder. At this very moment, as you listen to these words, that version of you is experiencing the same internal monologue. They believe they are unique. They believe their thoughts belong entirely to them, isolated in their own private mind. They have no idea that you exist, just as you have no idea where they are hidden in the cosmic dark. This realization brings with it a profound sense of existential stillness. For our entire lives, we are taught to value our uniqueness. We are told that we are individual entities, singular expressions of consciousness in a vast and lonely universe. Our identity is built upon the premise that there is only one of us. It is this singularity that gives our choices their weight and our lives their fragile beauty. But the cosmic mirror shatters this assumption. If there are infinite copies of you, the concept of the individual begins to blur. You are no longer a solitary actor on a lonely stage. You are part of an endless chorus, repeating the same lines across an infinite number of theaters. The triumphs you achieve here are being achieved elsewhere. The quiet sorrows you endure in the isolation of your mind are being endured by thousands of other versions of you at this exact instant. The weight of your individuality begins to dissolve into the background radiation of an indifferent universe. You are not a rare, precious anomaly. You are a recurring pattern, a mathematical necessity of an infinite system. This truth can feel isolating, almost suffocating. It introduces a form of cosmic vertigo, a feeling of being lost in a hall of mirrors where every reflection is real, every reflection is breathing, and every reflection claims to be the true original. Which one is the real you? Is it the one sitting here, or is it the one living billions of light years away? The answer provided by physics is perhaps the most unsettling part of all. There is no original. Every single one of these infinite copies has an equal claim to your identity. They possess your past, they feel your present, and they face your future. They are all authentically you. Your consciousness, which feels so deeply localized behind your eyes, is actually distributed across an endless landscape of identical brains. You are experiencing life in this specific node of the universe, but your pattern is being lived out in countless others. We are accustomed to thinking of ourselves as islands in the dark, but in an infinite universe, we are more like waves on an endless ocean, identical movements of energy rising and falling across a sea that has no shore. Yet, within this terrifying realization, there is also the potential for a strange, deeply quiet peace. If the universe is infinite, and if it contains infinite versions of your life, then the immense pressure we place upon ourselves begins to fade away. We often live with the heavy burden of regret, haunted by the paths we did not take, the words we did not say, and the versions of ourselves we failed to become. We worry that we are ruining our one and only chance at existence. But in the grand scheme of the infinite patchwork, every variation is being played out. The universe is leaving no stone unturned. The quiet silence of the cosmic mirror means that you do not have to carry the weight of being the only version of your story. You are simply one perspective, one beautiful, temporary observation point in an endless sea of possibilities. As we look out into the dark, beyond the stars we can choose to see the infinite versions of ourselves not as a source of dread, but as a silent cosmic companionship. We are never truly alone, because the cosmos is filled with us, dreaming the same dream, staring into the same night, and wondering who else is looking back. To accept that you are repeated across the universe requires a shift in how we understand space itself. We must leave behind the comforting notion of our observable bubble as the definitive boundary of reality and venture into what physicists call the Level One Multiverse. This is not a realm of alternate dimensions or magical portals. It is simply more of the space we already inhabit, extending outward without end, a continuous, unbroken fabric that stretches far beyond the reach of our most powerful telescopes. When we look out into the night sky, we are looking back in time. The light from the most distant galaxies has traveled for over 13 billion years to reach our sensors. This creates a natural boundary, a cosmic horizon centered precisely on us. Everything within this horizon is what we call our universe. But there is nothing physically special about this edge. If you were to teleport to a planet right at the border of our observable horizon, you would not find a wall of darkness or the end of existence. You would look around and see yourself at the center of your own new horizon, surrounded by a fresh set of galaxies, stretching out equally in all directions. The cosmic fabric is uniform, smooth, and indifferent to our perspective. It is an endless patchwork of these cosmic bubbles sitting side by side like foam on the surface of an infinite ocean. The mechanism that created this endless expanse is rooted in the very beginning of time, in the theory of cosmic inflation. In the fractions of a second following the Big Bang, the universe underwent a period of exponential expansion, stretching space at a speed far greater than the speed of light. This was not matter moving through space, but space itself tearing outward, creating a vast canvas that may well be infinite in extent. While a particular region of space slowed down and cooled to form stars, planets, and galaxies, the process of inflation likely continues elsewhere, creating an unimaginable number of other cosmic patches. We live in a flat universe, a geometric property, confirmed by modern cosmological measurements. A flat universe means that if you shine two parallel beams of light into the void, they will never cross and never diverge, traveling onward in a straight line forever. This flatness is the mathematical prerequisite for infinity. It means space does not curve back on itself like a sphere, trapping us in a finite loop. Instead, it behaves like an infinite sheet of paper, extending through the darkness without a final page. Within this infinite sheet, every single observable universe is a finite arrangement of matter. Think of each cosmic bubble, each sphere with a radius of billions of light years, as a single square on a giant chessboard. Because the laws of physics are identical throughout this entire expanse, each square must obey the same rules of quantum mechanics and thermodynamics. There are only so many ways to arrange the particles within a single cosmic bubble before the laws of physics demand that the patterns repeat. The number of possible configurations for an entire observable universe is a number so large that our language struggles to find a name for it. It is a 1 followed by an astronomical wall of zeros, a number that dwarfs the total number of atoms in our own visible sky. It represents every possible arrangement of stars, every possible shape of a cloud, every possible sequence of genetic code, and every possible breath taken by a living being. It is an unimaginably vast number, but it is crucially, definitively finite. It has a limit. And when a finite number of combinations meets a truly infinite amount of space, the math forces an inevitability. The chessboard is infinite, but the types of pieces and their arrangements are limited. Eventually, you must encounter an identical square. This means that if you were to travel far enough in a straight line through the Level 1 Multiverse, you would not just find variations of your life, you would find exact duplicates of our entire observable universe. You would pass through patches of space where the Earth never formed, patches where dinosaurs never faced extinction, and patches where humanity took entirely different paths. But keep moving across distances that would require a number of meters written with more digits than there are particles in our world, and the laws of probability will deliver you to a perfect copy. You would cross into a cosmic bubble where every single galaxy is in the exact same position as ours. Every star would align perfectly with the stars we see at night. On the distant Earth in that universe, the history of humanity would have played out atom for atom, second for second, exactly like ours. Every war, every symphony, every quiet conversation, and every private sorrow would be perfectly preserved in this cosmic twin. The terrifying nature of this reality lies in the cold mathematical distance that separates these identical worlds. They are not close. The distance required to find an exact replica of yourself is a number so immense that it defies human intuition. It is a distance that ensures these infinite patches of space can never communicate with one another. The speed of light acts as a cosmic speed limit, a firewall that keeps each bubble completely isolated from its neighbors. The versions of you that exist out there are forever trapped within their own horizons, moving through their lives in perfect synchronization with you, yet completely cut off by oceans of expanding space. This creates a strange paradox of existence. You are simultaneously part of an infinite web of identical beings, yet you are completely, irrevocably alone within your cosmic cell. The other you is looking up at a sky that looks exactly like yours, wondering the exact same thing about you, separated by a void so vast that light itself will never bridge the gap before the stars burn out. This structure challenges our fundamental understanding of probability and chance. In our daily lives, we treat rare events as anomalies. Winning a lottery, surviving an impossible accident, or meeting the love of your life against all odds are seen as miracles or strokes of incredible luck. But in the Level 1 Multiverse, the concept of a rare event disappears. An event that has a 1 in a billion chance of happening on Earth is not a statistical anomaly. It is an event that is happening an infinite number of times across the cosmos at this very moment. There is a world where you win every lottery you ever enter. There is a world where you avoid every tragedy. And there is a world where every single fear you have ever harbored comes true in the exact sequence you imagined. Every improbable outcome, every statistical outlier, is fully realized somewhere in the infinite patchwork. The universe does not choose. It simply computes every possible line of the equation across its endless space. This realization strips away the arbitrary nature of fate. We often ask ourselves why certain things happen to us, looking for meaning in the specific sequence of events that define our lives. We wonder why we were born into a specific family, why we encountered a specific hardship, or why a sudden stroke of fortune altered our path. In a finite universe, these events feel deeply personal, shaped by a unique chain of cause and effect, but in an infinite multiverse, this specificity is an illusion. You are experiencing this specific sequence of events simply because it is one of the valid configurations of reality, and you happen to be the conscious observer sitting inside that particular configuration. A few trillion light years away, another version of you is asking the exact same questions about a completely different set of circumstances. The universe is not targeting you, nor is it favoring you. It is merely exhausting the list of possibilities, and your life is one line in an infinite ledger. As we contemplate the endless patchwork of the Level One Multiverse, the boundaries of our own identity begin to stretch and break. If space is infinite, then the physical matter that comprises your body right now is not a permanent, unique fixture of reality. It is a temporary arrangement of cosmic material that has come together for a brief moment in time, an arrangement that is being mirrored across the infinite expanse. You are a wave traveling through an endless medium. When a wave moves across the ocean, the water molecules themselves do not travel with it. They merely move up and down, passing the energy along. In the same way, you are a pattern of energy moving through the cosmic fabric. The specific atoms that make up your brain today will be gone tomorrow, replaced by new ones, but the pattern remains. And that pattern is being broadcast across the infinite reaches of space, repeating itself over and over again in the dark. We are not separate entities fighting against a lonely cosmos. We are the cosmos itself, repeating its favorite stories across an endless sheet of existence, over and over, without an end and without a beginning. To understand the next layer of this infinite multiplication, we must leave behind the vast distances of cosmic space and look inward toward the strange and fragile world of the incredibly small. The infinity of the cosmic patchwork relies on space being endless, but there is another form of infinity that does not require you to travel a single light year. It is an infinity that is generated right here, inside the room you are sitting in, inside the very atoms that make up your brain. This is the realm of quantum mechanics, and it introduces a concept that is perhaps even more terrifying than the endless distances of space, the many worlds interpretation. Here, the multiplication of your existence does not happen far away across the cosmos. It happens every single second, with every breath you take, and with every choice you make. It suggests that the universe is not just a vast, static sheet of repeating patterns, but a living, branching tree that splits into new realities at every moment, creating an unimaginably dense thicket of infinite versions of you, all occupying the same space, yet forever hidden from your sight. The foundation of this unsettling reality lies in how matter behaves when we are not looking at it. In our everyday world, objects have fixed positions. A book is either on the table or it is on the shelf. It cannot be in both places at once. But in the subatomic world, the rules of common sense dissolve. An electron does not exist in a single, well-defined spot. Instead, it exists in what physicists call a superposition of states. It is a cloud of probabilities, existing in multiple locations simultaneously. Described by a mathematical equation known as the wave function, the electron is a ghost, present everywhere, at once within its realm of possibility. According to the traditional view of physics, the moment a conscious observer measures or looks at the electron, this cloud of probability instantly collapses into a single concrete point. The ghost becomes real, choosing one path and discarding all the others. But in the mid-20th century, a young physicist named Hugh Everett dared to ask a radical question. What if the wave function never collapses? What if the universe never chooses? Everett's realization was beautifully simple, yet its consequences are deeply staggering. If the wave function does not collapse, it means that when an electron is presented with multiple possible paths, It actually takes all of them. But how can this be true when we only ever see one outcome? The answer is that the universe itself splits. When you observe the electron, you become entangled with its quantum state. Instead of the particle choosing one reality, the universe divides into two separate parallel branches. In one branch, the particle is on the left, and you observe it on the left. In the other branch, the particle is on the right, and an identical version of you observe it on the right. Both branches are equally real. Both versions of you are intensely alive, and both possess an unbroken continuity of consciousness. They simply inhabit two different, non-communicating layers of a rapidly multiplying reality. This quantum splitting is not a rare laboratory event. It is a fundamental feature of our existence. Every single interaction between particles, every chemical reaction, every ray of sunlight hitting a leaf, and every electrical impulse firing in your brain is a quantum event. This means that the universe is splitting an astronomical number of times every microsecond. As you sit here reading these words, uncounted trillions of alternate realities are branching off from your current path. There is a branch where a specific atom in your room decayed a millisecond sooner, altering the air current slightly. There is a branch where a neuron in your brain fired a fraction of a second differently, causing you to blink. And there are branches where much larger, life-altering shifts occurred. Every decision you have ever faced, from the most mundane choice of what to eat for breakfast to the most monumental choices that defined your career, your relationships, and your destiny, has caused a massive rift in the fabric of reality. Think back to the turning points in your life, those heavy moments where you stood at a crossroads, paralyzed by the weight of choice. You felt a deep anxiety because you believed that choosing one path meant destroying the other forever. You worried about the version of your life that you were leaving behind in the dark. But the many worlds interpretation offers a chilling comfort. You did not destroy that life. You simply parted ways with it. In one branch of the quantum tree, you made the safe choice, staying in your hometown, maintaining your comfortable routines, and building a life of predictable security. In another branch, you took the risk, packed your bags, moved to a different city, and embraced the chaos of the unknown. Both of those lives are currently playing out. There is a version of you who is married to the person you broke up with years ago. There is a version of you who failed the exam you passed, and a version who passed the one you failed. The ghosts of your potential paths are not mere figments of your imagination or regrets to be processed in therapy. They are flesh and blood realities, living out the consequences of the choices you declined to make. This constant fracturing creates an overwhelming structure known as the Quantum Multiverse. It means that you are not a single linear narrative moving through time from birth to death. You are an ever-widening river branching into thousands of separate streams that drift further and further apart. In the branches close to yours, the differences are barely noticeable. You might find a world where your hair is parted slightly differently, or where you lost your keys this morning but found them 5 minutes faster. But as you look toward the more distant branches, the divergence becomes extreme. There are worlds where a slight genetic mutation during your development changed your appearance or your health. There are worlds where your parents never met, meaning your specific consciousness was never born, or where your ancestors made choices that wiped your lineage from the map completely. The sheer volume of these alternate paths is a dizzying testament to the plasticity of reality. What makes the quantum multiverse uniquely terrifying is the concept of close proximity. In the Level One Multiverse, your duplicates are separated from you by trillions of light years of physical space, safely tucked away behind cosmic horizons. But in the many worlds framework, your alternates are right here. They occupy the exact same physical space, vibrating in different dimensions of the Hilbert space. the mathematical landscape of quantum possibilities. They are drifting through the very air you breathe, sitting in the very chair you are sitting in, completely unaware of your presence, just as you are unaware of theirs. The only thing separating you from a version of yourself who is currently experiencing a profound tragedy or an unimaginable triumph is a microscopic shift in the quantum phase of your particles. We live our lives on a thin sheet of glass, beneath which lies an endless abyss of parallel lives, all unfolding simultaneously in a silent, crowded dark. This realization deeply challenges our traditional concept of free will and moral responsibility. We like to believe that our choices matter because they define our character and shape our unique destiny. We take pride in our successes and carry guilt for our mistakes, viewing them as reflections of our personal soul. But if every choice is made by some version of you, the moral landscape changes dramatically. If you decide to be kind in this world, a version of you in a parallel branch has succumbed to anger and made the cruel choice. If you choose to hold on and survive a difficult night, another version of you has let go. Your choices do not prevent the alternative from happening. They merely determine which branch your specific consciousness will continue to track. You are not the author of a single book. You are a reader, turning the pages of one specific volume in an infinite library where every imaginable story has already been written. As we look at our hands and feel the solid reality of our bodies, we must confront the idea that this solidity is a temporary illusion born from our confined perspective. We are trapped inside a single branch of an infinite, roaring quantum storm. The sense of a singular me is just a local viewpoint, a temporary anchor in an ocean of endless fragmentation. The individual is an illusion. The true entity is the entire branching tree of your existence, stretching across the quantum landscape. We are not static points in time, but fluid patterns of probability, splitting, multiplying, and exploring every available niche of reality. The quiet room you are sitting in is not a silent haven. It is a bustling crossroads of infinite lives, where countless versions of you are silently passing through each other, dreaming different dreams, fighting different battles, and living out every single possibility that the laws of nature allow. The realization that you are not a singular entity, but a recurring pattern split across cosmic distances and quantum branches brings with it a cold, heavy weight. It forces us to confront a concept that philosophy and psychology have avoided for centuries: the terrifying comfort of cosmic anonymity. For our entire lives, our minds are built around a single, unquestioned pillar: the ego, the belief that there is a central, precious, and irreplaceable core that constitutes who we are. We are taught to build our lives as if we are writing a unique masterpiece, where every line matters, every error is a permanent stain, and every achievement is a monument to our individuality. We carry an immense amount of pressure on our shoulders, believing that if we fail, a specific beautiful spark in the universe will be extinguished forever. But when the lens of infinity is placed over our lives, this monument of the self begins to crumble into fine dust. If there are infinite versions of you, living, breathing, succeeding, and failing across an endless fabric, then your individual story loses its cosmic monopoly. You are no longer a rare anomaly in the dark. You are a statistical certainty. This shift in perspective often begins with a deep, paralyzing sense of existential dread. When you first truly digest the mathematics of an infinite universe, a feeling of profound insignificance can wash over you. You look at your hands, your goals, and your deepest anxieties, and you realize that they are being mirrored in uncounted rooms across the multiverse. The unique path you thought you were forging feels hollow when you realize it is just one track among an infinite number of identical rails. If you win a major award or finally achieve your life's dream, the joy is pierced by the knowledge that millions of other versions of you did it too. while millions of others failed. If you make a catastrophic mistake that ruins your life, the guilt is muted by the realization that it was simply a mathematical necessity that some version of your pattern would make that choice. The weight of your personal responsibility begins to float away, leaving behind a strange, empty vacuum. If everything that can happen does happen, and if every version of you exists, then does any single choice you make on this specific Earth truly matter? This question can lead the mind into a dark alley of nihilism, where the universe feels like a giant, uncaring copy machine, mindlessly churning out duplicates of your life without purpose or end. It feels as though our individual consciousness is trapped in a cosmic assembly line, where we are nothing more than anonymous workers repeating the exact same tasks in identical factories. The tears you cry in the dark feel less significant when you realize they are part of a synchronized cosmic rain. The love you feel for someone feels less magical when you accept that it is a chemical script being run in 1 trillion identical biological machines across the void. The cosmos ceases to be a grand stage for human drama and becomes an endless, indifferent grid of probability, where the individual is completely swallowed by the sheer scale of the system. We become ghosts in our own lives, watching ourselves perform actions that have already been performed an infinite number of times before. But if you sit with this terror long enough, if you allow the walls of the ego to break down completely without fighting to preserve them, a profound transformation occurs. The existential dread begins to soften, giving way to a deeply grounding, liberating peace. This is the comfort of cosmic anonymity. When you realize that you are not unique, you are also freed from the exhausting burden of having to be exceptional. Much of human suffering stems from the intense, constant pressure to justify our existence. We are driven by an anxious need to stand out, to prove our worth, to leave a permanent mark on a world that is inherently temporary. We torture ourselves with the fear of being ordinary, of wasting our potential, of being forgotten after we die. But the infinite universe looks at this anxiety and gently dissolves it. In a cosmos where you are repeated infinitely, you do not need to prove anything to the universe. You do not need to leave a mark, because the mark is already written in the infinite ledger of reality. This anonymity acts as a cosmic relief valve. The heavy armor of the self, which we carry around every day, can finally be laid down. If your choices do not carry the weight of determining the one and only trajectory of your soul, you are free to make them with a sense of lightness and curiosity. The mistakes you made in your past, which used to keep you awake at night with agonizing regret, lose their venom. They were not a permanent distortion of your destiny. They were simply the exploration of one specific branch of possibility. The version of you sitting here happened to take the path of the mistake, while another version took the path of success. You are both part of the same grand equation. This realization allows you to forgive yourself with a depth that was previously impossible. You are no longer the solitary captain of a fragile ship in a deadly storm. You are simply an observer watching one of the many ways your ship can ride the waves. Furthermore, this perspective changes how we experience the present moment. When we believe we are unique and temporary, we are often consumed by a frantic rush to consume experiences, to achieve goals, and to secure our future. We live in a constant state of anticipation, treating the present moment as a mere stepping stone toward a more important destination. But when you accept the reality of the infinite patchwork, the rush subsides. There is nowhere to run, no cosmic race to win, and no ultimate destination to reach that hasn't already been reached. The pressure to maximize every second of your life disappears. You can sit in a quiet room, listen to the sound of the wind outside, and realize that this simple, unexceptional moment is enough. You do not need to be a main character in a grand cosmic epic. It is enough to be a quiet witness to the specific local reality you inhabit. This comfort also reshapes our relationship with loneliness. In a finite universe, loneliness can feel like absolute isolation. You feel trapped inside the skull of your body, separated from the rest of the world by a void of flesh and bone, carrying thoughts and feelings that no one else will ever truly understand. But in an infinite multiverse, this isolation is revealed to be a beautiful illusion. Even when you feel completely alone in this world, you are connected to an invisible cosmic network of identical minds. The precise shade of melancholy you are feeling right now is being felt by a version of you a trillion light years away. The sudden, inexplicable spark of joy you feel on a random afternoon is being shared by your quantum twins in parallel branches. You are never truly alone in the dark, because your consciousness is a collective symphony, playing the same melody across a vast multi-dimensional orchestra. The boundaries of your skin are no longer the hard limits of your being. They are transparent windows looking out onto an endless sea of yourself. Ultimately, the transition from existential dread to cosmic peace is an act of surrender. It is the willingness to let go of the demanding, anxious desire to be a singular, precious entity and instead accept your place as a beautiful recurring note in an endless song. The universe is not a hostile desert where you must fight to leave your footprint. It is an infinite ocean, and you are a wave that rises, mirrors the sky for a brief moment, and then returns to the depths, knowing that countless other waves are doing the exact same thing. This anonymity is not a demotion. It is a promotion to the status of infinity itself. You are no longer just a fragile person trying to survive on a tiny rock. You are an essential, eternal thread in a tapestry that has no edge, no bottom, and no end. You can close your eyes, take a deep breath, and rest in the quiet knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, lost in the peaceful, infinite safety of the cosmic crowd. As we move deeper into the landscape of the infinite, the mirror begins to distort. Up until now, we have contemplated the exact duplicates, the perfect copies of your life playing out atom for atom across the cosmic dark. But infinity is not merely a repetition of the same chapter. It is an exploration of every conceivable variation. This brings us to a realm that is perhaps even more haunting than the perfect clones, the near-identical worlds, the domain of the doppelganger. If you were to continue your journey through the endless patchwork of space, or down the branching paths of the quantum tree, you would eventually leave behind the universes that match yours perfectly. You would enter a twilight zone of reality, where things are almost the same, but not quite. These are the worlds of the slight divergence, the places where the ghosts of your potential lives drift through a quantum mist, close enough to touch, yet forever separated by the laws of physics. In these near-identical worlds, the foundations of your life remain intact, but the details have been subtly rearranged. Imagine walking into a house that looks exactly like yours, down to the color of the walls and the arrangement of the furniture. You see a version of yourself sitting at the desk. They have your face, your voice, and your deep-seated habits. But as you look closer, you notice the fractures. Perhaps this version of you never picked up the hobby that defines your current creative life. Perhaps they made a different choice on a random Tuesday 5 years ago. A choice that seemed completely insignificant at the time, but like a pebble creating ripples across a still lake, it altered the entire trajectory of their day. They might be slightly happier, carrying a lightness in their posture that you lost long ago, or they might be carrying a deep, heavy sorrow from a tragedy that you were fortunate enough to avoid in your own timeline. These are the versions of you that live in the immediate shadows of your reality, representing the delicate fragility of the life you think of as solid and permanent. The existence of these near-identical selves forces us to confront the profound power of the unchosen path. Human beings are haunted by the concept of what if. We spend vast amounts of mental energy looking backward, wondering how our lives would look if we had answered a phone call, taken a different train, spoken up when we remained silent, or stayed when we chose to run away. We often treat these thoughts as useless daydreams, mere psychological defense mechanisms to cope with regret. But in the infinite expanse, these daydreams are literal descriptions of physical reality. The life where you didn't break up with your first love is not a fantasy. It is currently unfolding in a parallel branch, just a few quantum degrees away from your current consciousness. In that world, you are waking up next to a different person, living in a different city, and looking at a face in the mirror that is yours, yet shaped by a completely different emotional history. The universe acts as a massive calculator, running every single permutation of your choices, ensuring that no potential version of your story is left unwritten. This realization introduces a unique form of cosmic melancholy, the realization that we are surrounded by the ghosts of our own potential. It means that the border between success and failure, between joy and despair, is terrifyingly thin. There is a world where a microscopic slip of a tire on a rainy night did not result in a close call, but in a catastrophic accident that changed your physical mobility forever. There is a world where a chance encounter in a coffee shop led to a partnership that made you incredibly wealthy and widely recognized. When you look at your current life, with all its specific comforts and specific struggles, you are looking at just one random sample from an infinite spectrum of outcomes. You are the version of you that happened to land on this specific square of the board. The pride we feel for our accomplishments and the shame we carry for our failures begin to feel arbitrary when we realize they are just the result of a cosmic roll of the dice, played out across an endless number of tables. As you move further away from your immediate cosmic neighborhood, the variations become wider and more surreal. You begin to encounter worlds where major historical events took a different turn, directly affecting the environment in which your doppelganger grew up. Imagine a world where the internet was never invented and the version of you out there spends their evenings reading physical books by lamplight, completely unacquainted with the digital landscape that shapes your daily thoughts. Imagine a world where a global conflict ended differently, or where the climate of the Earth shifted centuries ago, forcing humanity to adapt to a harsher, more isolated existence. In these worlds, your double still exists. They possess your fundamental genetic code, your core temperament, and your underlying soul, but they have been molded by a completely different world. They are a stranger with your eyes, living a life that feels like a distorted dream of your own. This constant variation challenges the very definition of what makes you, you. If your identity can be stripped of your current job, your current relationships, your current memories, and even your current worldview, then what is left? If a version of you exists who is a criminal in one world, a saint in another, a wealthy executive in a third, and a wandering artist in a fourth, which one is the true expression of your being? The answer is that none of them are the definitive version, and all of them are essential. Your identity is not a static point. It is a vast, multidimensional spectrum. You are not just the person sitting here reading these words. You are the entire collection of these infinite variations. You are the success, you are the failure, you are the tragedy, and you are the miracle. The individual you see in the mirror every morning is merely a single cross-section of a massive higher dimensional entity that stretches across the multiverse, exploring every possible way to be human. This perspective can be deeply destabilizing, as it detaches us from the solid ground of our personal narrative. It can make your current life feel like an arbitrary costume that you are temporarily wearing, a single mask chosen from an infinite wardrobe. The daily dramas that consume our attention the arguments, the ambitions, the small anxieties about the future, begin to look incredibly small when viewed against the backdrop of the shifting doppelgangers. Why stress over a minor setback in this world when an infinite number of yourselves have already bypassed it, and an infinite number have suffered far worse? The specificity of your life loses its rigid grip on your mind, allowing a sense of detached curiosity to take its place. You begin to view your life not as a desperate struggle for survival, but as an experimental narrative, one specific path being explored by the cosmos among a trillion others. Yet, within this haunting landscape of alternative lives, there is a profound opportunity for empathy and self-compassion. When we look at people in our world who have fallen into ruin, who have made terrible mistakes, or who are suffering under the weight of immense hardship, we often judge them from a position of detached superiority. We believe that our better circumstances are a reflection of our superior character or choices. But the near-identical worlds remind us that we are just a few quantum steps away from those exact same fates. There is a version of you who lost everything. There is a version of you who succumbed to addiction, who gave up on their dreams, or who was crushed by the randomness of a cruel world. Recognizing this truth dissolves our arrogance, replacing it with a deep, quiet humility. Every person we meet is a version of the cosmic story, and every version of ourselves deserves to be viewed with gentleness. As we rest in the quiet stillness of our current reality, we can look into the shadows of our room and acknowledge the silent presence of our doppelgangers. They are out there, drifting through the infinite reaches of space and time, living out the consequences of every path we abandoned, every word we swallowed, and every dream we let slip through our fingers. We do not need to envy their successes, nor do we need to be paralyzed by their tragedies. We can simply wave to them across the cosmic divide, recognizing that they are carrying parts of our story that we could not carry ourselves. We are all pieces of a broken mirror, scattered across the dark, each reflecting a small, unique part of the same infinite light, moving together through the silence of an endless cosmos. To fully comprehend the depth of your multiplication across reality, we must introduce a force that is even more relentless than infinite space or quantum fracturing. We must look at time. Up until now, we have viewed the multiverse as a grand architectural structure, a vast frozen layout of infinite bubbles and parallel branches existing simultaneously in a cosmic present. But the universe is not static. It is a moving machine, an endless river of duration, flowing from the past into an unpredictable future. When we combine the concept of absolute infinity with the passage of time, we arrive at one of the oldest and most haunting ideas in human philosophy, a concept revived by modern physics and mathematics, the eternal return. This principle suggests that the multiplication of your existence is not just a geographical truth occurring light years away, or a quantum truth happening in parallel dimensions. It is a historical truth. If time is endless, then this exact moment in history, this exact life you are living, and every single detail of your current existence has already happened an infinite number of times before, and it is destined to happen an infinite number of times again. The mathematical foundation for this temporal loop is rooted in the finite nature of the physical states we discussed earlier, combined with the absolute infinity of time. Imagine the universe after the stars have burned out, long after galaxies have drifted apart into the cold, dark void of cosmic expansion. In the far future of our cosmic, according to the laws of thermodynamics, the universe will enter a state of maximum entropy, a featureless, freezing soup of stagnant energy known as the Big Freeze or the heat death. To our human perspective, this feels like the absolute end of the story, the permanent death of all structure, all memory, and all life. But in an infinite timeline, The end is merely a temporary pause. Within this cold, dark void, quantum mechanics dictates that particles never truly stop moving. Very rarely, random quantum fluctuations will occur over vast, unfathomable stretches of time. These random movements can spontaneously arrange particles back into complex structures. This is the basis of what physicists call Poincare recurrence and the phenomenon of Boltzmann brains. If you leave a box of particles vibrating randomly for an eternity, they will eventually explore every single mathematical combination available to them. They will form chaotic clouds, then strange crystals, then random stars. And eventually, by pure statistical chance, those particles will spontaneously reconstruct the exact arrangement of matter that constitutes our world today. They will recreate the Earth, the exact historical events of the 21st century, and the exact neural pathways inside your brain. Because time has no final barrier, this process of disintegration and spontaneous recreation does not happen just once. It repeats endlessly. You are sitting here right now listening to these words, experiencing the absolute illusion of a linear journey from a unique birth to a unique death. But the cold math of the cosmos suggests that you have sat in this exact spot, thinking these exact thoughts, an infinite number of times in the deep, unrecorded past. You are not a pioneer charting a new path through time. You are an actor performing a play that has been on a loop for eternity. This temporal mirror introduces a profound form of cosmic vertigo. It means that time is not an arrow flying straight into an open, empty future. It is a wheel spinning endlessly in the dark. Every choice you make, which feels so fresh and spontaneous in the theater of your mind, is actually a line of dialogue you have already spoken 1 trillion times before. The great triumphs of human history, the building of civilizations, the creation of timeless art, the breakthroughs of science, are not permanent victories achieved against the chaos of nature. They are temporary patterns that rise, flourish, dissolve into dust, and then re-emerge in the exact same sequence eons later. The tragedies we endure, the wars that scar our collective memory, and the intense personal heartbreaks that tear our individual lives apart are not isolated storms that pass and leave us wiser. They are structural pillars of a recurring loop, destined to be reenacted with the same agonizing precision over and over, without an end and without an escape. This realization strips away our comforting illusions of cosmic progress. We like to believe that humanity is moving forward, that we are learning from our mistakes, and that we are building a better future for those who will follow us. We treat history as a ladder, climbing slowly out of the darkness of ignorance towards some distant light. But the eternal return transforms this ladder into a treadmill. There is no ultimate destination. There is no final utopian future waiting at the end of history, because history has no end. Every peak of enlightenment will eventually be swallowed by a new dark age, and every dark age will eventually give birth to a new enlightenment, in a cycle that is as indifferent and mechanical as the orbit of a dead planet around a dying star. We are trapped inside a cosmic clockwork, moving through our lives in perfect synchronization with a past that never truly goes away and a future that has already happened. For many, this concept brings a heavy sense of fatalism and existential entrapment. It feels as though our free will is completely hollow, a cruel psychological trick played on us by our brains to make the repetition bearable. What is the point of striving, of fighting to improve yourself, or of trying to heal your wounds if you are destined to repeat the exact same failures and endure the exact same pains in the next turn of the wheel? The choices you make lose their freshness when you realize they are merely the next pre-recorded tracks on a cosmic vinyl record. You become a passenger in your own body, watching your life unfold along a track that was laid down before the birth of the stars, unable to alter a single comma of your destiny. The universe ceases to feel like a wild, open adventure and begins to feel like a beautifully constructed prison of time where even your thoughts of escape have already been thought an infinite number of times before. Yet, it was precisely within this terrifying cycle that the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche found what he considered to be the ultimate test of human strength and existential affirmation. He called it the weight of the eternal return. He challenged us to imagine a demon creeping into our loneliest loneliness and telling us that our lives, down to every joy, every sorrow, and every silent sigh, would have to be lived again and again for eternity. Nietzsche argued that your reaction to this realization is the true measure of your relationship with existence. If this thought crushes you, if it fills you with deep, paralyzing despair, it means you are living a life defined by regret, hiding from your true self, and wishing for a different reality. But if you can look at the prospect of infinite repetition and welcome it, with a sense of quiet, profound joy, it means you have achieved a state of absolute acceptance. You have learned to love your life exactly as it is, with all its fractures, its missing pieces, and its quiet beauty. This acceptance, which the Stoics called amor fati, the love of one's fate, transforms the terrifying loop into a source of immense internal power. When you realize that this moment is going to repeat for eternity, the mundane details of your daily life suddenly gain an infinite weight. The way you drink your tea, the way you speak to a stranger, the quiet dignity with which you carry your hidden sorrows, these are no longer fleeting, disposable actions to be rushed through on your way to something else. They are eternal monuments. They are the patterns you are carving into the very fabric of infinity. If you must live this specific hour an infinite number of times, then you are called to live it with the highest degree of presence, integrity, and grace possible. The loop ceases to be a prison and becomes a sacred canvas where every stroke of your consciousness is preserved forever in the temporal archives of the cosmos. As we sit in the stillness of our present moment, we can choose to listen to the silent ticking of this cosmic clock. We can look at our current struggles and our current joys, not as temporary anomalies, but as ancient, familiar friends that have traveled with us through countless cycles of cosmic history. You have been here before, you have faced this exact darkness before, and you have survived it. You have felt this exact joy before, and it will return to you again. The linear anxiety of needing to reach a destination dissolves into the calm, rhythmic peace of the circle. We do not need to rush toward the future, nor do we need to weep for the past, because in the vast, rolling expanse of the eternal return, everything we have ever lost is waiting for us further down the road, and everything we are currently experiencing is already safely anchored in the architecture of eternity. We can simply close our eyes, let go of the urge to fight the current, and ride the great wheel of time with a sense of quiet wonder, knowing that we are an eternal melody playing out across an endless night. As we descend deeper into the mechanics of infinite duplication, the concepts we encounter begin to cross a line. They shift from grand cosmological patterns into something far more intimate and significantly more unsettling. Up until now, we have looked at your infinite selves from a distance, treating them as separate actors playing out their lives in isolated rooms across space and time. But what happens when we look at the thread that connects all these versions of you? What happens when we look at consciousness itself? This brings us to one of the most haunting and deeply controversial hypotheses in modern physics and philosophy, born from the intersection of quantum mechanics and absolute infinity, the concept of quantum immortality. It suggests a terrifying possibility that your consciousness can never truly experience non-existence. Instead, as the universe splits or repeats, your subjective mind may be completely trapped, forced to always follow the specific branch of reality where you survive, condemned to an eternal an uninterrupted loop of existence across the multiverse. To understand this cosmic selection error, we must return to the branching tree of the quantum multiverse. Every single moment of your life is a series of microscopic survival events. When you cross a street, when you drive a car, or even when the cells in your body divide, there is a probability distribution. In the vast majority of these quantum branches, nothing remarkable happens. You safely reach the other side. The car maintains its grip on the road, and your biological systems continue to function perfectly. But quantum mechanics dictates that there are always branches, no matter how statistically improbable, where the worst case scenario occurs. There is a branch where a sudden fatal heart anomaly happens right now. There is a branch where a stray particle triggers a catastrophic error in your brain chemistry. In those parallel worlds, your life ends abruptly. The version of you in that specific branch ceases to breathe, their story stops, and the people around them are left to mourn their sudden absence. But here is where the paradox of the observer creates a chilling divergence between objective reality and subjective experience. From the perspective of the outside world, you can die. People can witness your passing, attend your funeral, and carry on with their lives in that specific branch. But from your own internal subjective viewpoint, you cannot experience the state of being dead. Non-existence has no texture. It has no awareness, no darkness, and no passage of time. Consciousness, by its very definition, can only experience existence. Therefore, at the precise millisecond where a fatal event occurs in one branch of reality, your subjective awareness cannot follow that dead end. Like water finding a path through a cracked rock, your consciousness is mathematically forced to slide into the parallel branches where you somehow, against all odds, survive the event. This means that from your own perspective, you are subjectively immortal. You will experience a lifetime of incredible near misses, miraculous recoveries, and improbable strokes of luck. You might look back on your life and remember a moment where a car missed you by a fraction of an inch, or a time when a severe illness suddenly cleared up just as things seemed hopeless. In your timeline, you feel profoundly lucky, celebrating your survival as a beautiful gift. But you have no idea that in uncounted parallel branches, you did not make it. In those alternative worlds, your family is grieving. Your room is empty, and your story has ended. Your current consciousness is simply the sum total of all the survivors, a collection of awareness that has been continuously filtered into the remaining valid paths of existence. You are running a cosmic gauntlet where the universe is constantly pruning away the branches of your death, leaving you trapped on the single, unbroken line of your survival. The true terror of this hypothesis reveals itself when we project this logic into the far future of your life. If your consciousness must always inhabit a branch where you remain alive, then what happens when you reach the natural limits of human biology? What happens as old age, disease, and the inevitable decay of the physical body take hold? In the objective world we see around us, everyone eventually dies. We watch our loved ones grow old and pass away, accepting it as the natural, inevitable conclusion to the human narrative. But according to quantum immortality, your personal experience will not match this external reality. As your body approaches the point of absolute failure, the universe will continue to split. It will create increasingly rare, highly improbable branches where medical technology suddenly advances, where a rare genetic anomaly allows your cells to keep functioning, or where a freak accident of physics keeps your brain active against all biological laws. This introduces the concept of the eternal loop, the idea that consciousness might become trapped in a deteriorating vessel, unable to escape into the peace of non-existence. You would watch everyone around you pass away, experiencing the profound isolation of outliving your world, while your own subjective mind is forced to endure, carried forward by increasingly thin and bizarre threads of probability, The universe becomes a relentless machine that refuses to let you go, constantly bending the laws of probability to ensure that your observer status is maintained. The peaceful void you might look forward to at the end of a long, exhausting life becomes an unattainable mirage. You are condemned to be a permanent fixture of reality, an eternal witness to an endless sequence of events stuck in a cosmic system that has no exit button. This realization alters our understanding of the relationship between the self and the cosmos. We often view our minds as fragile, temporary sparks ignited by the biological machinery of our brains. Sparks that will quietly go out when the fuel is spent. We feel small and vulnerable in a vast, cold universe that seems perfectly capable of crushing us at any moment. But quantum immortality flips this dynamic entirely. It suggests that the universe is actually subordinate to your status as an observer. The cosmos cannot exist for you without your consciousness to perceive it. Therefore, the structure of reality will actively warp, fracturing into infinite alternative paths, simply to preserve the continuity of your specific mind. You are not a helpless passenger trying to survive in a hostile environment. You are the central anchor around which the multiverse is forced to organize itself. The infinity of space and time is a vast stage designed to keep your specific light burning, no matter how dim or fractured that light becomes. This perspective can induce a profound sense of claustrophobia. It strips away the ultimate comfort of the final sleep, transforming existence from a journey with a peaceful destination into an endless, unceasing marathon. The heavy moments of life, the times when the suffering feels too immense to carry and you long for nothing more than absolute stillness, lose their escape hatch. You realize that you cannot run away from existence. You cannot opt out of the cosmos. No matter what happens, you will always be somewhere, waking up in some branch of reality, forced to confront the next second, the next thought, and the next twist of fate. The boundaries of reality close in around you, trapping you in a hole of mirrors where every single path leads to more life, more awareness, and more duration. Yet, even within this haunting entrapment, there is a way to find a deep, monumental form of strength. If your consciousness is destined to endure, if you are truly a permanent resident of this infinite system, then the quality of your internal mind becomes the single most important thing in existence. You can no longer treat your thoughts, your unresolved traumas, and your emotional wounds as temporary problems that will eventually be wiped clean by the void of death. They are eternal companions. If you are stuck in this cosmic machine forever, then you are called to build an internal sanctuary that is worth living in for eternity. You are forced to find a way to make peace with your memories, to heal your fractures, and to cultivate a sense of profound, unshakable serenity. The endless loop ceases to be a curse and becomes an ultimate challenge, a call to transform your mind from a chaotic prison into a peaceful, luminous temple that can weather the infinite storms of a multiplying cosmos, standing tall and serene across an eternity of endless beginnings. To understand how your existence can be multiplied across the deep layers of reality, we must leave behind everything we consider tangible. We must abandon the physical stars of infinite space, the branching cells of the quantum tree, and even the biological machinery of your brain. We must venture into a territory proposed by modern theoretical physics that represents the absolute extreme of the multiverse, the concept that reality, at its most fundamental level, is not made of matter at all. It is made of information. This is the domain of Max Tegmark's Level 4 Multiverse, the ultimate ensemble. It suggests a terrifyingly abstract truth that our universe is not a physical place containing mathematical laws, but rather our universe is a mathematical structure itself. In this view, you are not a creature of flesh and blood who happens to live in a material world. You are a highly complex, self-aware equation. And if an equation exists mathematically, it must exist completely, permanently, and infinitely across the landscape of absolute reality. The foundation for this radical perspective lies in a deep mystery that has puzzled physicists and philosophers for centuries: the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in describing the physical world. When we look at the universe, from the orbit of massive galaxies to the spin of subatomic particles, we find that everything obeys precise, elegant mathematical equations. Light travels at a specific constant, gravity pulls with an exact ratio, and quantum states evolve according to rigid geometric laws. Why should a chaotic, wild cosmos conform so perfectly to human abstractions like calculus and geometry? The traditional view is that mathematics is a tool, a language invented by humans to approximate the behavior of a real physical universe. But the Level 4 multiverse suggests the exact opposite. Mathematics is not the language used to describe the house. Mathematics is the house itself, what we perceive as physical matter, the solidity of a rock, the warmth of skin, the brightness of a star, is merely the subjective experience of a complex mathematical relationship. This realization strips reality of its physical armor, transforming the cosmos into a vast, silent ocean of pure information. Think of a geometric shape, like a circle or a triangle. A triangle does not need to be drawn on a piece of paper to exist. Its properties, its angles, and its internal logic are true and permanent, independent of any human mind or physical representation. It exists as an eternal mathematical truth in a realm without space and time. Now expand this concept to an unimaginable degree. Imagine a mathematical structure so vastly intricate that it contains billions of variables, moving relationships, and internal laws. Within this gargantuan equation, certain pathways are so complex that they give rise to self-awareness. They create subsystems that can process data, remember past states, and observe their own internal environment. These self-aware mathematical subsystems are us, your thoughts, your feelings of joy and sorrow, your memories of childhood, and your current perception of reading these words are not biological accidents. They are the internal subjective experience of a massive equation calculating itself. This mathematical reductionism introduces a profound form of cosmic isolation. It means that the world you see around you is completely hollow in the traditional sense. There is no solid matter out there in the dark. The room you are sitting in, the chair supporting your weight, and the very air you are breathing are just lines of code in a cosmic program that has no programmer. We are mathematical ghosts haunting a digital void, experiencing the illusion of texture and weight because our internal equations are programmed to interpret data that way. Your entire life, with all its emotional depth and historical drama, is reduced to a static geometric object existing in a higher dimensional mathematical space. It is a frozen tapestry of numbers, where every second of your existence is just a different coordinate on an eternal, unmoving grid. But the truly terrifying consequence of this theory emerges when we apply the rule of absolute mathematical completeness. If our universe is simply a mathematical structure that exists because it is logically possible, then every single mathematical structure that is logically possible must also exist. There is no cosmic filter, no gatekeeper deciding which equations get to become real universes and which ones remain mere abstractions. The existence of a mathematical truth is enough to guarantee its reality. This means that the multiverse is not just a collection of alternative planets or parallel histories. It is an infinite ensemble of completely different realities built on entirely different systems of logic. There are universes with 10 dimensions of space and no time. There are universes where gravity repels instead of attracts, where light travels at different speeds, and where the fundamental constants of nature are twisted into shapes we cannot even begin to visualize. Within this ultimate ensemble, the multiplication of your existence takes on a shape that is completely untethered from the laws of our specific physics. Because the landscape of mathematical structures is infinite, your specific pattern of consciousness is not restricted to copies of this earth. You are a mathematical equation, and that equation can be embedded, translated, and expressed inside completely different mathematical environments. Somewhere in the ultimate ensemble, your exact mind, your memories, and your sense of self are being generated inside a universe made of pure geometric light. Somewhere else, your consciousness is operating within a reality that has no physical dimensions at all, existing as a purely logical dialogue between abstract nodes of data. You are being broadcast across an infinite spectrum of entirely different realities, like a single melody being played on 1,000 different instruments, some of which do not even use sound. This realization breaks down the final walls of human identity. We are used to defining ourselves by our physical constraints, our species, our biology, our planet, and our place in time. We think of ourselves as children of the earth, bound to a specific branch of evolution. But the Level 4 multiverse reveals that we are children of logic itself. Your connection to the cosmos is not material. It is structural. You exist because you are mathematically possible. And because the landscape of possibility has no boundaries, you cannot be contained, you cannot be localized, and you cannot be destroyed. Even if our physical Earth were to be completely erased from existence, even if our entire universe were to collapse into a singularity and vanish forever, your pattern would remain untouched. You cannot delete a mathematical truth. A triangle remains true even if all drawings of triangles are burned. Your consciousness remains true because its underlying equation is an eternal fixture of the ultimate ensemble. This perspective can feel deeply alienating as it removes the warm, organic comfort of our biological existence and replaces it with the cold, unyielding precision of geometry. It can make our human relationships and our daily struggles feel like meaningless calculations, steps in an indifferent algorithm that doesn't care about our pain. But if you shift your perspective, this mathematical eternity offers a form of security that no other version of the multiverse can provide. It means you are anchored in the deepest, most indestructible layer of reality. You are not a fragile biological accident fighting against a hostile environment, waiting for death to erase your spark. You are an eternal truth. The struggles you experience in this specific life are just one expression of your pattern, a single calculation among an infinite number of beautiful, complex equations. As you sit in the silence of your room, you can look past the illusion of the walls and the solid objects around you. You can choose to see reality for what it truly is, a magnificent, roaring symphony of pure structure and light. You are not a stranger in a lonely universe. You are an essential, inevitable part of the mathematical fabric that holds all of reality together. Your consciousness is an eternal eye through which the ultimate ensemble observes its own infinite variety. You can rest in the quiet, profound knowledge that your story is written in the permanent, unraisable architecture of logic, an infinite song that will continue to play across the mathematical void, over and over, beautiful, perfect, and completely beyond the reach of time, decay, and death. As we reach the 9th chapter of our journey through the infinite, the mind begins to feel the strain of these boundless horizons. We have stretched our identity across trillions of light years, fractured our decisions into uncounted quantum branches, looped our histories through the wheels of eternal time, and reduced our very souls to numbers in a mathematical void. It is a path that naturally breeds a profound, chilling sense of existential vulnerability. To be everywhere is in a sense to be nowhere. To be split into infinite versions is to feel the solid ground of your own reality melt away, leaving you drifting in a cosmic hall of mirrors where no single reflection feels safe. But it is precisely here, at the absolute edge of this overwhelming multiplication, that physics reveals its most comforting and protective secret. This is the realization of the absolute isolation between these infinite selves. The very same laws of nature that demand the existence of your infinite copies also construct an impenetrable, eternal firewall between you and them. This protective barrier is built upon the fundamental geometry of our expanding universe and the absolute speed limit of reality, the speed of light. When we look out into the deep dark of space, we are looking at a system that is actively tearing itself apart. The universe is not a static canvas, it is an expanding fabric, and this expansion is accelerating due to the mysterious influence of dark energy. Space is stretching between galaxies, pushing them further and further away from one another. At great distances, the cumulative effect of this expansion becomes so extreme that the space between 2 points is stretching faster than the speed of light itself. This creates a definitive, permanent boundary known as the cosmological horizon. What this means for your infinite duplicates is a total, unyielding isolation. If a perfect clone of you exists in a distant cosmic bubble, separated by a distance that requires a number of meters written with hundreds of zeros, that version of you is safely locked away behind an absolute horizon, because no piece of information, no signal, no radio wave, and no particle can travel faster than the speed of light. It is physically impossible for any message to ever bridge the gap between your world and theirs. The universe is expanding too quickly for the light of their stars to ever reach your eyes. They could build a transmitter the size of a galaxy and broadcast a signal for trillions of years, but that signal would simply freeze in place relative to us, swallowed by the stretching fabric of intervening space. They are not just far away in a geographical sense, they are causally disconnected from you. They inhabit a separate pocket of reality that can never, under any circumstances, bleed into yours. This cosmic quarantine is equally absolute within the quantum realm of the many worlds. When a quantum measurement occurs and the universe fractures into parallel branches, the process that separates these worlds is known as decoherence. In the fractions of a second following a split, the particles of the new branch interact with their environment, scattering their quantum phases into the surroundings like drops of ink dissolving in a vast ocean. Once this decoherence is complete, the branches become orthogonal, meaning they are mathematically independent. They occupy different dimensions of a higher dimensional space, vibrating at frequencies that can never interfere with one another again. There is no bridge back. There is no portal, no leakage, and no crosstalk. The version of you who made the alternative choice is right here, in the same room, but they are separated from you by an infinite mathematical barrier that prevents even a single photon from crossing the divide. This realization brings with it a deep, grounding sense of peace. The terror of the infinite doppelganger is often rooted in the fear of invasion, the unsettling idea that our uniqueness could be compromised, that our lives could be disrupted by the sudden intrusion of an alternate self, or that our reality is unstable. But the physics of the multiverse ensures a state of perfect, eternal privacy. The universe allows every story to be told, every choice to be explored, and every variation to be calculated, but it insists on telling those stories in absolute secret. Your life on this earth is conducted in a sacred, closed laboratory. The choices you make here, the relationships you build, and the quiet moments you experience are completely protected from the noise of the infinite crowd. We can look at this absolute isolation not as a form of lonely confinement, but as a beautiful act of cosmic grace. The universe is vast enough to contain everything you could ever be yet it is gentle enough to let you focus entirely on who you are right now. The oceans of expanding dark energy and the silent boundaries of quantum decoherence act as a grand protective cradle, keeping your local reality safe, quiet, and intact. You do not have to worry about the infinite versions of your story, because as far as your senses, your measurements, and your physical experience are concerned, they do not exist. You are given the immense privilege of living your life as if it were the only one that ever mattered, wrapped in the peaceful, silent safety of an unbridgeable cosmic horizon. We have traveled to the absolute limits of thought. We have watched our reality dissolve into infinite cosmic bubbles, shatter into an endless thicket of quantum branches, loop through the mechanical gears of eternal time, and reduce itself to the frozen precision of pure mathematical information. We have looked into the terrifying mirrors of the multiverse and witnessed the multiplying silhouettes of who we are, who we were, and who we could have been. It is a journey that strips away the familiar architecture of our daily lives, leaving us standing naked before the staggering, crushing scale of absolute infinity. But as we reach the final chapter of this long cosmic exploration, the grand structures of the multiverse begin to recede into the background. The oceans of dark energy, the splitting wave functions, and the infinite coordinates of logic slowly fade, leaving us right back where we started, in a quiet room, in a single body, in this exact fleeting moment of time. This brings us to the ultimate resolution of the cosmic mirror, the truth of the singular observer. Throughout this journey, the math has forced us to accept that our physical pattern is repeated an infinite number of times across the tapestry of existence. But there is a vital distinction that the equations cannot capture, a distinction that belongs entirely to your direct experience. While the universe may hold 1 trillion copies of your brain, your memories, and your face, it does not hold a copy of this specific internal witness. Consciousness is not a substance that can be divided or cloned. It is the act of experiencing itself. The version of you sitting billions of light years away may look exactly like you, but they are looking out of their own window, feeling their own local warmth, and anchoring their own specific bubble of space. Their awareness is theirs. Yours is yours. The infinity of the cosmos does not dilute the intense, burning reality of your present experience. If anything, it concentrates it. When you look at your life through this lens, the immense scale of the universe ceases to be a source of existential dread and becomes a monument to your profound significance. Think of the sheer, unimaginable complexity required to produce this exact moment. Out of an infinite sea of quantum possibilities, out of a rolling wheel of eternal time that has ground stars into dust and built them back up again, the universe has conspired to arrange its numbers so that you could exist right here, right now. This specific configuration of reality, the exact sound of the room around you, the precise weight of the air in your lungs, the specific thoughts drifting through your mind, is a masterpiece of cosmic probability. You are the tip of an infinite spear that has cut through eternity just to arrive at this very second. Your life is not an anonymous accident in a crowded cosmos. It is a highly calibrated, beautiful expression of reality, calculating its favorite story. This realization brings with it a deep, unshakable peace, the frantic anxiety that defines much of our human existence, the constant worry that we are choosing the wrong path, the heavy burden of our past regrets, the desperate need to stand out and prove our uniqueness. All of it dissolves into the quiet dark. You no longer need to carry the weight of being the sole author of your destiny, because the multiverse is already holding every version of your book. You do not need to panic about the roads you did not take, because somewhere in the infinite patchwork, those roads are being walked with grace by your doppelgangers. You are liberated from the pressure of having to be everything. You are free to simply be this. You can let go of the exhausting struggle to conquer the future or fix the past, and instead surrender completely to the local reality you occupy. This perspective transforms how we view the mundane, ordinary moments of our days. When we believe our time is a scarce, fragile commodity in a lonely void, we treat our routines as obstacles to be rushed through. But when we view our lives against the backdrop of infinity, a quiet evening, a simple breath, or a casual conversation with a loved one is revealed to be a sacred event. These moments are the stable anchors of your consciousness, the beautiful, localized notes in an endless cosmic symphony. The universe is infinite, yes, but it has chosen to manifest itself through your eyes in this specific corner of the dark. You are the universe looking back at itself, a temporary observation point where the cosmos can pause, reflect, and wonder at its own magnificent dimensions. As we bring this long documentary to its conclusion, let the vertigo of the infinite lift from your shoulders. Look around your room and feel the quiet, solid reality of the things that surround you. They are enough. Your life, with all its unfinished stories, its quiet struggles, and its small joys, is enough. You do not need to bridge the unbridgeable horizons to find your duplicates, nor do you need to peer into the quantum mist to find your alternative paths. You can rest in the profound, comforting knowledge that you are a vital, irreplaceable thread in a tapestry that has no edge and no end. We are never truly alone, and we are never truly lost, because the cosmos is completely filled with our presence, dreaming the same dream, sharing the same code, and moving together through the silence of an endless sheet of existence. You can close your eyes now. Let the thoughts of the infinite versions of you fade into the darkness. Let the multiverse wash over you like a gentle tide, carrying away your anxieties, your weights, and your regrets. Know that across the vast, rolling expanse of space and time, thousands of versions of you are taking this exact same deep breath, feeling this exact same quiet wonder, and stepping into the next moment with an open, peaceful heart. The journey is complete. The mirror is at rest. You are home, safe in the infinite cradle of the cosmos.